a child, a man, a husband, a soldier, a king, a legend. He is not born with the line, "Spartans, eat well, for tonight we dine in Hades." That comes at the end. Before the quote, before the cliff, before the rain of arrows turns day into iron dusk, there is a boy, a third son, an afterthought, a replaceable piece of meat in a city that does not believe in individuals. Leonidas. We like him simple. Hero at a narrow pass, beard of bronze, absolute CGI, the man who stands where no one else will. That story is clean, comforting. We pretend he is what we wish we would be under impossible odds. But the real Leonidas is uglier, sharper, far more interesting. He is not an accident of courage. He is the end product of an industry. To understand him, you do not start at Thermopylae. You start in Laconia, in a strip of harsh earth in the southern Peloponnese, where Sparta squats like a clenched fist. Unlike Athens, with its marble theaters, debates, drunken philosophers, and tragedies, Sparta has one obsession: survival through dominance. The ruling Spartiates, the equals, are a tiny caste perched above a sea of people who hate them. Below them toil the helots, conquered Messenians and others, serfs bound to the land. 10 to 1, perhaps more. In some generations, 20 to 1. Every harvest, every wall, every shield, every meal of black broth rests on their forced labor. If they rise, Sparta dies. So the Spartan system is not built to conquer the world. It is built as a permanent state of internal war. A garrison city turned inward, bayonet always pressed to the throat of its own subjects. Terror is not a side effect. It is policy. Every year the ephors, Sparta's top magistrates, perform a legal trick. They formally declare war on the helots. With that ritual sentence, murder becomes duty. From this poisoned soil grows the Krypteia, a secret death squad of select young Spartiates, sent out by night to stalk and quietly butcher the boldest helots. No trial, no shield wall, no honor, just sanctioned killing in the dark to trim down potential leaders. This is the Sparta into which Leonidas is born around 540 BC. Not the comic book of shouting heroes, a closed-pressure cooker of fear, discipline, legalized violence, a place where your worth is the weight of armor you can carry and the pain you can endure without a sound. Leonidas belongs to the Agoge royal house, one of Sparta's 2 hereditary dynasties. 2 kings at once, a built-in safeguard against tyranny, or so they claim. But royal blood here does not mean soft cushions and golden cups. It means scrutiny, expectation, being watched as a tool, not cherished as a child. He is not first in line. He is not meant to wear the crown. And that, more than anything, seals his path. Because the precious heirs can be sheltered, coached, groomed carefully for rule. The spare can be thrown to the wolves. Soon, at 7 years old, Leonidas will be taken from his mother's arms and delivered to the Agoge, the machine that burns away fear, softness, and mercy. The program that turns boys into the kind of men who can look at an empire and say, "Come and take them." The legend begins long before Thermopylae. It begins with a city so terrified of its own slaves that it forges monsters to feel safe. Leonidas does not walk into greatness. He is dragged, At 7, like every Spartiate boy who is not shielded by heir status, he is taken from his mother's house without negotiation. No soft farewell, no promise of visits. A city that fears softness cannot afford sentimental rituals. His childhood is confiscated by the state. This is the Agoge. Do not imagine a school. Imagine a controlled famine with lessons. 1 cloak per year, no shoes. He sleeps on a mat of reeds he must tear from the Eurotas with his bare hands. Summer dust, winter frost. He meets both in the same thin wool. Hunger is constant, planned, educational. Sparta wants wolves, not pets. So the boys are ordered to steal. Food, firewood, whatever they can take. Theft is not a crime. Failure is. If Leonidas is caught, he is not punished for breaking a rule, but for revealing weakness. The cane, the whip, the fist. These are not discipline, they are curriculum. The lesson is simple and lethal. Success is virtue. Incompetence is sin. Older boys, the Irenes, rule over the younger with sanctioned cruelty. Beatings, humiliations, ambushes in the dark. It is bullying weaponized by the state. Bonds are formed, yes, but forged in fear, rivalry, and the knowledge that only the strong, silent, and ruthless will rise. Speech is rationed like food. Laconic brevity is not a quirk, it is doctrine. Instructors fire questions like javelins. A clumsy or rambling answer earns pain. Every word must be precise, ironic, cutting. Leonidas learns that silence is armor, that 2 or 3 words can be sharper than a spear. At night they whisper stories of the Krypteia, chosen youths stalking helots under the moon. Myth bleeds into training. Leonidas grows up knowing that to be truly Spartan is to live in a moral twilight where killing the right man is patriotism. This is how you erase the idea of an individual soul. The Agoge does not simply teach him to fight. It smashes cause and effect into his bones until he understands only one sacred equation. The city survives, or you do. Never both. Most boys bend. Some break. Leonidas hardens. Where others nurse grudges against tormentors, he imitates their precision. Where others cling to scraps of childhood, he burns his. Pain becomes a familiar officer. Hunger, an old instructor. He learns to read men quickly, terrain instinctively, danger without illusion. He is royal by blood, but in the barracks that means nothing, except that failure would be doubly unforgivable. By the time the Agoge is done with him, Leonidas is not a hero. He is a system made flesh, disciplined, controlled, engineered to stand fast where any sane man would run. One day, that is exactly what Sparta will ask him to do. Cleomenes sits the throne first. Leonidas watches. The boy who slept on reeds now stands in the shadow of a brother who never knew that cold. Cleomenes, eldest son of Anaxandridas II, has what Leonidas never had. Exemption from the full cruelty of the Agoge. He is born to rule, not to be remade. And Sparta, a city that supposedly worships equality among its equals, has quietly created its first crack. Cleomenes is clever, charismatic, dangerous. He meddles in other cities' affairs, topples kings, plays at divine approval. Herodotus will later whisper that he bribed the oracle at Delphi itself to remove a rival Spartan king, Demaratus. Whether that scandal is truth or convenient rumor, the effect is the same. Cleomenes learns that rules are for other men. Leonidas learns something else. What happens when Sparta produces a king who never had to be broken first? The second brother, Dorieus, is the opposite problem. A purebred Spartan champion, hardened by the Agoge, adored by many. He believes he deserves the crown more than Cleomenes. When he is passed over by law and custom, his pride cannot bear it. He does what Spartans are trained never to do. He runs. Dorieus abandons Sparta to find his own glory elsewhere. First in Libya, then Sicily. There he dies in someone else's war, a perfect warrior wasted on another man's soil. Herodotus's verdict is simple and cruel. Had he stayed, he would have been king. 2 lines of failure. One brother too soft and erratic for Sparta's cold arithmetic, the other too proud to endure it. Leonidas stays. He drills, fights, obeys. He watches Cleomenes' reign tilt further into instability. Rash campaigns, political blunders, behavior that edges from ruthless to unhinged. Eventually even Sparta has had enough. The ephors declare their king mad. Cleomenes is seized, chained, confined like a dangerous animal. What happens next is wrapped in shadows. Officially, Cleomenes somehow convinces a god to hand him a blade and proceeds to butcher himself piece by piece. Legs, thighs, torso. An alleged suicide so grotesque it sounds like a warning more than a report. Unofficially, everyone understands. A king who endangers Sparta does not get to keep his heartbeat. Dorieus is long dead abroad. Cleomenes is dead at home, one way or another. In the quiet that follows, only one viable male of the Aegean royal line remains. The younger son who went through every lash, every winter, every humiliation. Leonidas. He does not win the throne. He outlives it. No prophecy crowns him. No oracle announces his destiny. The math is brutally simple. In a system that kills the unfit, the unstable, the impatient, the last man standing is not the gentle one. Sparta has, through accident and design, selected for something terrifyingly specific. A king who has felt everything it takes to survive their world, and is now in charge of deciding what and who survives the next. When Leonidas takes the throne, the world is already moving against him. Far to the east, in palaces of cut stone and hammered gold, another story is unfolding. Where Sparta has 2 kings and no luxuries, Persia has one king of kings, and more wealth than Leonidas can even imagine. First comes Darius I. His empire stretches from Egypt to India. Greece is a smudge on his western margin. But at Marathon, in 490 BC, that smudge draws blood. A small Athenian army smashes a Persian expedition and sends it back to Asia in disgrace. For most kings, that is an insult to avenge. For Darius's son, Xerxes, it becomes an obsession. Xerxes does not know hunger. He does not sleep on reeds. He does not run barefoot over thorns or steal to live. He is raised with perfume and prophecy, told from birth that the will of Ahura Mazda shines through him. When he inherits the empire, he also inherits Marathon and the need to erase it. Leonidas, new king of a hard little valley, governs a state built for one purpose: war. He enforces iron discipline, maintains the Agoge, keeps the helots crushed. He is everything Cleomenes was not. Stable, controlled, predictable in his brutality. Sparta under Leonidas is not glorious. It is ready, Persia under Xerxes is something else entirely. Scouts and rumors bring impossible numbers. Bridges of boats thrown across the Hellespont. Canals cut through mountains to spare the fleet a detour. Storehouses raised along the royal roads, so the army will never know the taste of empty. Herodotus's figures are wild, millions, but even the cautious estimates speak of perhaps 200,000 or more. To a Greek farmer, it might as well be the sky falling. Xerxes demands a simpler tribute than gold. Earth and water, symbols of submission, a ritual acknowledgement that land and life now belong to him. Persian heralds fan out across Greece. Many cities kneel. Thessaly submits. Boeotia wavers. Argos looks away. Survival has its own logic. Then the heralds come to Sparta. They stand in a city of stone, where boys are whipped to death before altars for training, where women tell their sons, "With your shield," or "on it," and mean it. They recite Xerxes' demand: earth, water, obedience. Leonidas listens. The Ephors listen. The Gerousia listens. Sparta does not debate. They act. The heralds are seized, dragged to a deep well. The story you know polishes the moment, but the core is simple and savage. When the Persians ask where to find earth and water, the Spartans gesture into the darkness. Down there. It is more than defiance. It is a crime. Killing heralds violates one of the few sacred rules of war recognized across the ancient world. Xerxes will not see it as courage. He will see it as blasphemy against his royal person. Leonidas knows exactly what he has done. With that single choice, Sparta burns its last bridge. There will be no negotiated peace, no polite vassalage under Persian shade. For Xerxes, this is now personal. For Greece, it is now existential. In Susa, the King of Kings raises an army to erase a handful of stony cities. In Sparta, the king forged in pain understands the storm is coming. And if Sparta is to live, someone will have to walk directly into its teeth. News of Sparta's answer to Xerxes did not drift across Greece. It detonated. Earth and water had been demanded. Dead heralds had been returned. The King of Kings would not forget. In market squares and council halls, the story spread. The Spartans had thrown Persia's terms into a well, and Persia's envoys after them. It sounded glorious. It sounded insane. Because when Sparta slammed the door, it locked every Greek city-state in the same burning house. In the north, Xerxes' army rolled west like a moving country. Engineers, scribes, cavalry, archers, immortals, slave gangs, supply trains. The machinery of an empire accustomed to flattening kingdoms by accident. Closer to home, Greek politics did what Greek politics always did. Fractured. Some cities reached for Persian safety. Others froze. A few talked of fighting but had no plan beyond speeches and pride. It was Leonidas's curse that in this moment of panic, every eye turned to Sparta. They had started the fire. Now they were expected to hold back the inferno. In Corinth, envoys from rival cities gathered in a rare congress. Athenians, Corinthians, Spartans, Boeotians, islanders, men who had spent generations stabbing each other in the dark, sat in the same room because a much larger knife was on its way. From Athens came Themistocles, brilliant, shameless, tireless architect of wooden walls. A fleet of triremes he swore could break Persia at sea. But ships alone could not stop an army that drank rivers dry. Someone had to stand in the path. The map on the table narrowed their options to a single scar on the Greek coastline, Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, a narrow pass choked between mountain and sea, with sulfur springs steaming nearby, an ancient wall half crumbled but repairable, a place where tens of thousands could only attack a few hundred at a time. It was not a miracle. It was geometry. If the Greeks could hold Thermopylae on land while the fleet blocked the Persian navy at Artemisium, Xerxes' numbers would strangle themselves in narrow water and stone. It was a desperate, beautiful plan. It required two things Greece rarely managed: unity and time. Unity, the Congress could at least pretend to grant. Time would have to be bought. And everyone in that room looked, inevitably, to Leonidas. He was not the most eloquent. He was not the richest. He was the one man all others believed would not break. Sparta would send its king to the Hot Gates, not because they expected him to survive, but because they knew he would not retreat. In that unspoken calculation, Leonidas as the fixed point upon which all of Greece might pivot, the next act of the tragedy was set. He left Corinth with the weight of a doomed arithmetic on his shoulders. Thousands against hundreds of thousands, stone against tide. One brutal life's training finally meeting the purpose it had always implied. Not to live long, but to make his death purchase something larger than himself. The plan was clear. Thermopylae must be held. The Spartans must lead. Everyone knew it. Everyone assumed that when Sparta was finally needed for what it existed to do, the full machine would march. And then Sparta said, no, not with malice, with law. When Leonidas returned home to demand mobilization, the ephors, the 5 magistrates who could restrain kings, did not waver. The sacred festival of the Krypteia had begun. During the Krypteia, no Spartan army could march to war. The gods' calendar, they said, was older than Persia, older than Sparta itself. To break it was to risk ruin far greater than any mortal empire. Xerxes' army did not care about Spartan festivals. The ephors did. For the first time since boyhood, Leonidas felt the dead weight of something he could not break with discipline or a spear. Piety, frozen into law. He argued, he warned, he laid out the geometry of disaster. The magistrates listened in silence. Those hard, expressionless men who'd been raised by the same system that raised him. And then they repeated the verdict. The army would not march. Greece could burn while Sparta prayed. Anyone else might have called it fate and waited. Leonidas had been trained in a different doctrine. If the wall is solid, find the crack. The law forbade a campaign of the Spartan army. It said nothing about the king's personal guard, so he carved his loophole in bronze. He would not summon all the equals, only 300. The Hippes, his royal guard, the finest blades produced by the Agoge. Officially, they would be an advance force, a bodyguard, a symbol to stiffen Allied courage until the festival ended and the main army could follow. Unofficially, Leonidas knew the truth. So did the men he chose. He issued one final condition that revealed everything. Only those warriors with living sons could volunteer. No only sons, no childless heroes chasing glory. Every man who followed him would leave a bloodline behind. It was a logistical order, disguised as mercy. It was a death sentence, written in bureaucratic ink, in houses of mud brick and stone. The chosen told their families. There were no dramatic breakdowns, no public wailing. Spartan mothers had been trained for this moment since girlhood. Shields were lifted from hooks and pressed into calloused hands. Come back with it, they said, or on it. Gorgo, queen of Sparta, daughter of a king and wife of another, met Leonidas not with pleading, but with calculation in her eyes. She knew the numbers. She had heard the oracles. She understood exactly what a guard of 300 meant against Persia. "What would you have me do?" she asked. "When you are gone?" Her husband's answer was pure Sparta, pure Agoge, cruel in its clarity. "Marry a good man, bear good sons. Nothing else matters. No promise of safe return. No lie of hope." When the 300 formed up beneath the cold Spartan sky, they were not misled boys. They were veterans, fathers, men who had been shaped from birth to walk toward this kind of horizon. Spears, round shields, crimson cloaks, 300 pieces of a single decision. Leonidas took his place at their head. If Sparta would not march its army, he would march its legend. They left the valley of Sparta behind. Olive trees thinning, mountains rising, the air sharpening with salt and stone. 300 crimson cloaks moved like a vein of blood through the backbone of Greece, joined along the way by contingents from other cities. Corinthians, Tegians, Arcadians, Phocians, Thespians. Not many, not enough, but more than nothing. Leonidas rode at the front, helmet slung at his side, reading the land with a hunter's eye. He knew what all true killers know. Numbers are not everything. Terrain is a weapon. Narrow the field, break the cavalry, force the giant to crawl on its knees. That weapon had a name, Thermopylae, the hot gates. When the road finally spat them out before it, every Spartan understood why their king had chosen this place. On unquiet days, the sea pressed almost up to the cliffs. Even now, the passage between mountain and water was little more than a stone throat. Sulphurous steam coiled from hot springs along the path, giving the ground its name and the air a stinging, otherworldly scent. Here, an ocean of men would become a trickle. Here the chariots of kings were useless, the swarms of Persian cavalry trapped, their famous archers compressed into tight ranks under a wall of Greek shields. Here, the Agoge's product could confront an empire on terms written in Spartan ink. Leonidas ordered the old Phocian wall rebuilt, a low barrier of stone across the narrowest point, backed by the heavier wall of bronze and muscle. The men set to work without speeches. Shields were stacked, stones hauled, stakes driven. This was not heroics. This was carpentry for the apocalypse. The camp formed behind the line. Rough tents, cook fires, sharpening stones, singing under calloused hands. Among the allies there was murmur, doubt, the human habit of asking, "What if?" when staring at impossible odds. Among the Spartans there was only method. Maintain the kit, oil the cuirass, check the spearhead, braid the hair. Yes, braid the hair. It unsettled the allies to see the 300 calmly combing and plaiting their long dark hair before the battle. To many, it looked like vanity. In Sparta it meant something else. Readiness, A warrior prepared for death looked presentable to the gods. Leonidas walked the line, saying little, a hand on a shoulder, a nod, an old comrade's brief, brutal joke. He did not roar speeches for effect. That was for poets. His men already knew what they were. He simply anchored them to the ground they would soon be asked to die upon. Scouts came and went with reports of dust on the horizon, of bridges of ships across the Hellespont, of a host so vast its campfires looked like constellations fallen to earth. The numbers no longer mattered. What mattered was that there was only one road south wide enough for an army, and Leonidas now sat on its throat. Night settled over Thermopylae like a held breath. The steam of the springs glowed faintly in the torchlight. Somewhere out there, beyond the curve of the bay and the black teeth of the hills, the greatest force the world had ever seen was advancing. 300 waited at the gates of fire, not to survive, but to measure the price of passage in Persian blood. Dawn bled slowly over Thermopylae, turning the steam of the hot springs into ghostly banners. On the distant plain, new constellations had burned through the night, Persian campfires stretching to the horizon. Now they guttered into smoke as the great machine of Xerxes began to move. From the Spartan line, it looked less like an army and more like a continent waking up. Standards shifting, drums rumbling, cavalry snorting, the glint of tens of thousands of spear points catching the young sun. The men watched in silence. They had seen armies before. No one had seen this. Xerxes, king of kings, erected his viewing throne on a rise overlooking the pass. Brocaded tents, parasols, gilded guards in scale armor and jeweled tiaras, a traveling palace staring down at a stone wall, and 7,000 stubborn Greeks. To him, it must have seemed absurd, so he began the day with mercy. A herald in rich median dress advanced toward the Greek position under a flag of truce, flanked by escorts. He proclaimed the offer in a voice trained to carry. Lay down your arms, submit, become loyal friends of the great king. Land, titles, safety, everything could be arranged. Among many Greek contingents, the promise had weight. Among the 300, it had none. The herald finished. The pass held its breath. Leonidas stepped forward, calm as a man answering a trivial question. Years of Agoge discipline had boiled his speech down to a weapon. No waste, no softness. When he spoke, it was not a shout, but it struck like a thrown spear. Come and take them. Molon Lab. 2 words to answer an empire. No florid defiance, no elaborate curse, just an invitation. A reminder that Spartan shields were not negotiable currency, but teeth. The herald recoiled, stunned, then retreated to his master. On the Persian hill, the answer was received with disbelief, then anger, then a cold, burning fury. Xerxes abandoned magnanimity. The day of warnings was over. He ordered the Medes forward. They came in dark waves down the narrow shore, confident, numerous, urged on by whips and officers. They crashed into the wall of shields and broke. The confined ground devoured their numbers. The Spartans advanced in measured rhythm. Spear, shield, step. Spear, shield, step. Dory points thrust from 3 ranks deep, punching through wicker shields, linen armor, unarmored throats. Behind them, allies held firm. galvanized by impossible courage, made visible. Bodies stacked, slick underfoot. The Medes fell back, bloodied. Xerxes sent more, then more. The pass became a grinder of bone. When the Medes failed, he sent the Immortals, his guard of 10,000 veiled faces, scale armor, a legend of invincibility. They met not a terrified rabble, but men engineered since childhood for this corridor of death. Leonidas rotated ranks with surgical precision, feigned retreat to draw the Immortals in, then snapped the phalanx shut like a trap. Again the same brutal arithmetic, narrow stone, heavy bronze, drilled cohesion against crowded confusion. Immortals died. The legend cracked. As the sun dropped, the Greek line still held. Exhausted, blood slick, dented, but unbroken. On his throne, Xerxes had watched a day's worth of men hurled into a gap no wider than a city street without gaining a single step. The King of Kings had met something he did not understand. A wall that had no intention of living. Night fell heavy on Thermopylae after the first day's slaughter. The pass stank of blood and brine and hot springs, carpeted with Persian dead. Greek shields were cracked, cloaks torn, muscles trembling with exhaustion, but spirits sharpened to a lethal calm. They had done what no one believed possible. Stopped the King of Kings. At the Spartan fires, there were no drunken boasts. Leonidas moved among his men, saying little. A hand on a shoulder, a nod, a quiet correction on how a spear should be braced at the next impact. The monster the Agoge had made was in his element, at the hinge between doom and discipline. Xerxes, in his pavilion of silk above the shore, raged. He had hurled Medes and Immortals into a stone funnel and watched them die like common levy. His generals spoke of the narrow ground, the weight of Greek armor, the discipline of the hoplite phalanx. Excuses. The God King did not accept excuses. He demanded a way around, and Thermopylae, cursed and blessed, had won. His salvation came crawling. Ephialtes, son of the hills, twisted in body and spirit, slipped into the Persian camp with a secret to sell. He knew the mountains above the pass, the goat tracks and hidden ways. There was a path, he said, that wound through oak and stone and came out behind the Greek position, a Naifu for hire, offering his own homeland's throat. Xerxes listened. For the first time that day, he smiled. In the Greek camp, Leonidas felt the weight of unseen dice. Scouts reported movement in the distant hills. Phocian allies had been posted to guard the upper path, but Leonidas knew their resolve was unproven. He had seen enough of men to understand this. Walls hold, nerves break. Before dawn, word came like a blade, drawn quietly from a sheath. Persian troops had been sighted on the heights. The path was compromised. The noose was closing. Leonidas did not curse. He did not panic. This was the moment the oracle's riddle had always pointed toward. Either Sparta burned, or a king fell. He gathered the council of leaders from the other cities. The choice he gave them was simple and cruelly sane. Go, he ordered. Withdraw. Carry word south. Live to fight them again. Some called it cowardice, even as they packed their armor. Others understood. Thermopylae was finished as a defensive line. Stay, and all Greek heavy infantry would die in a meaningless encirclement. Leonidas would not let the Hellenic cause die with him. So the Thespians stepped forward and refused to leave. Their city lay directly in the Persian path. They chose to die buying time for their homes. The Thebans, whose loyalty was suspect, were compelled to remain as hostages in bronze. The rest marched away through the morning haze, glancing back at the small knot of men who stayed. Leonidas watched them go with the hollow calm of a man signing his own epitaph. Thermopylae would not be remembered as a battle lost, but as a place where a king and a few hundred chosen did not ask whether they could win, only how they could make their deaths heavier than an empire's pride. Dawn bled pale over Thermopylae on the final day. Leonidas already knew. The reports were clear. Persian elite had slipped over the mountain path in the night. The rear would soon blaze with enemy bronze. In front, the endless host waited, insulted, enraged, now guided by a trader's map. There was no strategy left, only staging. He walked the lines of the remaining men, Spartans, Thespians, unwilling Thebans, faces hollowed by fatigue and smoke, armor cracked, cloaks stiff with the blood of strangers. He did not give them comfort. Sparta had not raised him for tenderness. He gave them clarity. Men, he said, voice steady over the hiss of the springs and the slow thunder of the Persian camp. Eat. They broke bread, figs, meat salted too long. Hands shook, but they ate. Some smiled. They understood. A full stomach was not preparation for survival. It was a shield against fear. Eat well, Leonidas said then, with the faintest curl of something like humor. Tonight, we dine in Hades. It was not cinema. It was doctrine. The Agoge had taught him that death was a detail. What mattered was how you arranged it. The Persians advanced. Not probing now, not testing. Their ranks rolled forward in layered waves. Archers, spearmen, immortals in scale armor that flashed like fish scales in the morning light. From the rear, the mountain path spat more troops, closing the trap. Leonidas did the unthinkable. He ordered the last defenders to abandon the rebuilt wall and surge forward. It was madness and genius. Staying penned would mean slow suffocation under arrows and flank attacks. Charging turned their annihilation into a spear driven straight at Xerxes' pride. The Spartans roared and collided with the vanguard in a brutal, intimate storm of bronze and iron. Thespians at their side, Thebans half-hearted, dragged with them. Spears shattered, short Xiphos daggers took their place. Sandals slipped in blood. Shields rang like hammered doors. Leonidas fought in the front rank. This is the part later poets soften. He was not a marble statue holding a perfect pose. He was a trained killer, a product of ritualized cruelty, moving with efficient savagery. Throat, groin, visor slit, always forward. Around him his 300 hacked and closed and hacked again, their discipline turning a hopeless last stand into a moving wound in the Persian line. Xerxes' brother fell. Then another noble. Panic rippled backward through banners and drums. So they did what all empires do when honor fails. They buried courage under mathematics. The order went out. Archers to the fore. Draw, Leonidas. chest heaving, blood crusted on beard and cuirass, saw the angle of the raised bows, understood. Forward, he barked, not to flee, to die. Closer, the sky blackened. The last of the Spartans and their allies locked shields over Leonidas' fallen body as the first iron rain hit. Those who remained upright fought like cornered animals around their king, 3 times throwing back the Persians who tried to seize him. One by one, they went down. When the dust settled, a small hill of Greek corpses crowned the pass, Leonidas at their heart, the monster king encircled by the men he had led into chosen doom. Thermopylae had fallen, but the story of what those few had done in that narrow wound in the earth had only just begun to sharpen its blade. Xerxes won, not by genius, not by valor, by weight. The pass was open. His dead lay in obscene heaps, but the Greek line was finally broken. The god king rode forward to see the cost of his victory and the face of the man who had denied him 3 days of his immortal life. They found Leonidas on that small hill of corpses, his body pierced, battered, half buried beneath Spartans and Thespians who had died trying to keep Persian hands from him. Even in ruin, his features were set in that infuriating Spartan calm, as if he had chosen the exact moment of his last breath. For Persians, the mutilation of a fallen enemy's corpse could be a message. For Greeks, it was blasphemy. Xerxes chose the message. On his order, Leonidas' head was struck from his shoulders and raised on a spear point. His torso, once wrapped in scarlet and bronze, was hung upon a crude wooden frame, a parody of crucifixion at the edge of the pass, left as a warning to anyone who might dream of opposing the empire of the King of Kings. To Persian officers, it was a necessary spectacle. To every Greek who heard of it, it was gasoline. Messengers slipped south carrying 2 stories, inseparable: the slaughter of the 300 and the desecration of their king. City-states that had hesitated now heard not merely of defeat, but of defilement. The Persians had not just killed a Spartan king. They had insulted the shared sacred order of the Hellenes. Athens burned. Yes, Xerxes would seize and torch the empty city in a storm of vengeance. Temples would fall. Statues would crack. The Acropolis would go up in smoke. But under that smoke, something else had already been lit. In cramped cabins of triremes at Salamis, in mustering fields near Krypteia, men whispered of Leonidas, not as a gentle ruler, not as a philosopher king, but as the hard, terrible spear point of Greece, a man trained from childhood to be nothing but an executioner for Sparta, who had turned that conditioning into a barricade for all. He had not been good. He had been useful. He had bought them time. Time for Themistocles to draw the Persian fleet into the straits of Salamis. Time for farmers to flee with their families. Time for proud, rivalrous cities to remember, if only briefly, that there are worse things than each other. Xerxes had his victory trophy, a severed head on a spear against the cliffside wind. The Greeks had something far more dangerous, a martyr whose blood had turned a narrow defeat into a story no empire could ever fully kill. At Thermopylae, the monster of the Agoge had finally done the one thing his makers had never intended. He became an example. Leonidas did not live to see Persian ships choke and die in the narrows of Salamis. He did not watch Themistocles spring his trap as triremes slammed bronze rams into crowded hulls, as the invincible fleet of the King of Kings shattered in foaming water and splintered cedar. He was not there a year later on the plains of Plataea, when Spartan hoplites under Pausanias drove their spears through the last Persian line and broke the invasion forever. But every stroke of an oar at Salamis, every shield lock at Plataea, marched in the shadow of Thermopylae. The story had already escaped. It ran faster than couriers. It passed from campfire to campfire, from portico to marketplace. 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, a handful of allies, a mountain pass, 3 days against an empire, a king who knew he would die and marched anyway, a body mutilated, a head on a spear, a wall of corpses that bought Greece the only currency it needed: time. Time for Athens to evacuate its people and bet everything on its navy. Time for rival cities to choke down their hatred and fight side by side. Time for fear to ferment into fury. Thermopylae was not a victory. It was a demonstration. It proved that the Persian war machine could bleed. It proved that there existed, at the brutal edge of the Greek world, men who would rather be annihilated than kneel. It proved that the price of respecting your own laws and festivals while an empire advances might be paid by someone else. Leonidas was not a soft hero misremembered in marble. By our standards, he was terrifying. He had overseen a state built on slavery, terror, and selective murder. He was the apex product of a system that drowned the weak, beat children into silence, and taught teenagers to kill helots in the dark and call it duty. He enforced a code where mothers told their sons, "With your shield or on it," and meant it. He was, in every human sense, a monster. And precisely because of that, at the one hinge moment when Greece needed something inhuman, he was capable of doing what gentler men could not. He could turn his entire life, his training, his cruelty, his absolute submission to the Spartan idea, into kindling for a legend. He chose the pass. He chose the stand. He chose his own expendability. He chose to weaponize his death. Xerxes thought that by spitting on Leonidas's corpse he had crushed him. Instead, he finished the sculpture. The Greeks would polish the edges, of course. They would sand down the helot blood, the internal savagery, the political ugliness, until what remained was the clean silhouette, a king in bronze, defying a continent. But beneath the myth, the truth still burns. Leonidas was not born noble. He was engineered. He was the sharpest fang in a brutal machine. And in 3 days of dust and blood at Thermopylae, that fang bit so deep into the pride of an empire that it changed the trajectory of a civilization. Xerxes had numbers. Leonidas left something stronger, a story that would not die.